music by Schubert here. This is the Musicaux number 3 in F minor. This reminds me a little bit of like a snowy evening, like a Christmas carol almost. I'll begin by playing the first 10 seconds of the music, give you a sense of this piece, and then the tutorial will begin. I'll break it all apart and show you how to learn it in as easy a way as possible. So here's what it sounds like. Then it repeats, but that is the first phrase, and that's what we're going to be tackling now. So the first thing I want to sort of address is the technique required. You're going to have to be pretty jumpy. There's a lot of staccatos here, and to do staccatos effectively, you have to be loose in the wrist. Otherwise, you're just not going to make it. There's so much that's jumpy in this piece, you're going to get really tired and eventually hurt yourself if you keep it up. So the first thing right out of the gate is when you're playing things that are sharp, sort of the edges of all of these notes are sharpened, don't tighten too much in your wrist. Keep that in mind. All right. First things first, let's have a look at the left hand. It's sort of like the clockwork of the piece. It just seesaws back and forth. We're in F minor, so we're going to start obviously in F. This is our position to begin this piece. 5 and 2 and 1 above. The first two bars introduce us. There's your first bar. Here's your second bar. So those of you who know a little bit of theory, notation here, what we have is all in eighth notes. So the piece is in 2/4 time, meaning 2 quarter notes per bar. And since the left hand is written in eighths, we're going to have 4 events, let's call them, every bar in the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And to count this as written, we'll have 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. All right, just setting a little bit of the groundwork here. Then we begin with where the melody begins. So the first thing you're going to notice is that the left hand doesn't really move too much from this spot. So after you finish the first 2 bars, here are the next few. Same thing to start. 5 to 2 and 1. Then 5 to 2 and 1 again, but the thumb falls to an E. Like that. And all the while, as you're doing these staccatos, very jumpy and free. Should feel a little bit like you're touching a hot stove. You just touch it and then bounce back. So, moving on, we have 2 of these again. It's pretty easy. Moving on. So again, in that bar, the thumb falls to E. And the final bar of the first phrase, back to this. I think that's pretty easy to do, right? So to reiterate, we have 2 bars to introduce. It's like an introductory 2 bars. Then the piece begins. And there you have it. That's all there is to the left hand. Now the right. And of course, the pedal will be a factor in how you color all of this. We'll get to that in a bit. So in the right hand, we begin with a little flick, a grace note. Now, one thing not to do when you're playing grace notes, if you want to make them loose and free, because you're supposed to start all of this fairly quietly, don't think of it as 2 separate notes, like ba bam, and then speed that up until it's a grace note. It takes too long, and it generally doesn't work. Instead, try to think of it as like you're flopping both of the fingers at the same time, just one of them is hitting earlier than the other. But very loose, very sort of flimsy almost. And then as you get better at that, you'll be able to control that, the sound, the quality, and the tone of that little flick. So that's the start. Then so we have a slur, connect, and then let go on 2, and let go on 1 on G. That's your first bar. Be really deliberate about this articulation, right? This is what gives the piece its charm. So don't just play the notes and then expect to do it later. I think right out of the gate, you should try and implement some of these jumpy things, because if you do everything legato and then try to fix it later, it'll be almost as if you're learning a new piece. Moving on. So that's 2, 3, 4. And you hold the 2 so that once the 4 arrives, it's like you're kind of in a duet. Right? They kind of swing up, brum, brum, like you're a little bit like a harp might. And there's 2 of those. So if we stitch that up, and try again not to be too tight here. Once you get to the end of each of these, because this is a quarter note, it's slower, give your wrist a moment to relax. 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 Now, do what I just taught you exactly as I taught you, and then add the counting into this. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And that's pretty much it. So once all that is taken care of, we're going to put it together. Seems simple enough, right? So we begin by having the second note of the right hand aligning with the left hand. So it's not so important, it's just something to note, right? To think about. The first note, the grace note, is sort of it's a precursor to the downbeat. So it should really feel like the A flat is what starts the bar off, right? So we have together, and then it's easy enough. So it's together with the right hand, that leads us to the next spot, together, and together. Now, of course, you're going to do this all with staccatos. So together. Notice that the left hand has to jump while the right hand is slurred, right? So it's connect the right hand while the left hand is jumpy, and then jump, jump. Put that together. Nice and slow. Moving on. And again, it's the last of the 3 notes that align with the left hand. Like this. Left hand on its own. And then again. And of course, the left hand can continue to jump. Like that. Take a moment and learn both of those bars and then stitch them up. And honestly, when you're playing this in tempo, where, like which note, which of these three notes, the left-hand lines begins to blur, because at a faster tempo, you're not going to hear that. It'll just be, it'll feel, especially when you have the pedal down, it'll feel a little bit more like it's just in the vicinity of the grace notes, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Now, once you've learned that, we have a little bit of pedaling. So this is dry. And then, when you play that, the pedal comes down after you finish the grace notes. It's pedal down. One more time. Pedal down. All right, so after I finish these three notes, then the pedal comes down. Otherwise, you get a bit of this mixing thing, and you don't want that. You want it to be nice and clean, like that. That's how you get it nice and clean. Pedal comes down after you finish the grace notes. And then after it, you can decide if you want two pedals, like that, to keep it clean, or just one pedal throughout. I've seen many people do it either way, so it's I leave that to you. So stitch everything up from the beginning, nice and slow. I tend to do two pedals for that second bar. Then we move on, same sort of beginning. And that's what we're going to be covering in the next part of the tutorial. Now, I'm really taking my time with the beginning here, because once you have all of these basic fundamental technical elements in place, how the hands align and how do they align when they're jumpy, when they're staccato, the rest of the piece starts to become easier. I think that's all I have to say. All right, let's move on. Let's finish this piece. Let's move on to the next bars. See you soon.